It led to 3 other years of having all this like great opportunity, making a profound impact on all these kids. We had so much fun, so much laughter. And then I went into a thing where I felt I was incompetent. So to ask for help, I had to admit that I wasn't good. And I'd had 4 years of thinking I was really good at what I did.
Well, I'm thrilled today to be back on the podcast with Laura and Dan from More Than a School.
Woo!
Thanks for having me, guys. It is an honour, a pleasure, and quite exciting to be able to be the interviewer and not the interviewee today. And Laura and I have the privilege of interviewing Dan and throwing some surprises his way.
I'm very excited.
So it's exciting to be able to hear from the host and about what's led you guys to this point in time and creating such a useful resource for the community of parents and teachers out there and students, of course, which is hopefully providing so much value and will continue to do so. Thanks.
I am pumped. This is great. But I'm checking. Laura's telling me I can't have my volume up too high, so I'll just try and maintain this in there.
Wasn't so.
Yeah, it's hi everyone.
I think you could.
It's great. No, I don't think so.
All right. I actually have known Dan for a couple of years because of our daughters being in school together and different kinder and things like that. Dan is an absolute vibrant, positive person of the community, I would say. Everybody knows Dan in the town, in my opinion, and he is always very upbeat, positive when you catch up with him. He's always got a smile on his face, very interested in everybody and asks informed questions and thoughtful questions often. But I have an intro that isn't just that. I've got here trailblazer in education, so from remote WA communities to driving transformational change in schools. You are a leader catalyst, harnessing collaboration and trust to deliver award-winning results. You're resilient and ambitious. You've turned early setbacks into a springboard for success, which we'll hopefully go into a little bit, both the setbacks and success. Earning a master's with honours. Global thinker, scholarship to Boston College and a wealth of insights from worldwide experiences. Been an empowering mentor and still are now inspiring and equipping leaders and teachers to reach their full potential, which you're clearly passionate about. You have an authentic voice in the community and through the podcast and in many ways, sharing powerful and real-world lessons from classrooms and leadership journeys. And visionary in terms of having dedicated to shaping future leaders and creating lasting educational change, which I think you can definitely see not just through your career path and your role in schools and education, but also just in your interest in people in general. So does that sit well, Darren?
That's really lovely. I was trying Laura, you could say I was trying very hard to keep looking not away. So yeah, that's really lovely. Thank you. I don't know what to do with that right now. Like, I haven't had anyone ever say anything like that to me. So that's really amazing to hear.
Can I bring you back down to earth?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, knock me back down a few days. Sorry, no, but I'm still going back to visionary. Like,
I've listed several things, but actually Jess's is so lovely. The only one I actually wanted to add was village lurker.
Village lurker?
Yes.
Oh,
village. Village.
Sorry, Jess, do you mind just going back just to your one?
Can I just... started in landscape architecture, ... bombed out. So...
Yeah, completely bombed out of that.
So shall we start there?
Oh, let's start there. Whatever you want.
No, we've got to start as we ordinarily do from my experience on the podcast, which is, Dan, were you happy with your score?
Yeah, I think so, because I sort of knew that I would get the score that I think, because when I was looking at getting landscape architecture at the time, I don't think the score from my perspective seemed to be that high. Like, I thought it was achievable for me. I was like, well, I sort of know if I put in a little bit of effort, I should be able to get into that. And then I also did some reading to find out that there were other ways to get in. So I also knew if I just spent too much of my time socializing and doing the stuff I probably shouldn't have been doing instead of studying, that I knew I could get in. So I was never really worried that I wouldn't find something to do. I don't know. I've always had this sense. I remember opening up the letter and at the same time also having like the computer screen load, because back then we still had the dial up and sitting there waiting for line by line to load. And my auntie was trying to call me on the phone every 5 minutes. So I think she was like the spy for my mum. And so they were trying to find out my score. And I got the score and I was like, yep, that's great. Like, yep, it was a good score. But I knew no matter what happened, there was something ahead and that this didn't ultimately matter to me. So I don't know, which sounds strange as I say this, because I just sort of knew that it was just the start. There was things ahead.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like it set you up well. But why landscape architecture, I wonder?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably to annoy my dad a bit because he was an engineer and when I was younger, he'd be like, "Oh, engineering's the best." Not that it's not, guys. Not that it's not. But I was really fascinated by architecture. I always loved the idea of like creating spaces, creativity, doing things differently. I think Jamie Drury started a TV show which was all about landscape. We'll put it in the show notes, Laura.
What's it called?
No, I can't remember.
It's top off.
Petey Devil.
Well, that wasn't anything that drew me in, but it was probably because I was like, I remember him just always building like little backyards or backyards that had pools, all this, and just watching
Backyard Blitz.
Backyard Blitz.
Yes.
Yes.
But I remember listening. I was like,
Good memory.
because he would listen to people, find out something, and then I don't know, put in place a change that then made people smile. So I remember at the time I was like, that's really cool. It seemed to be a bit different. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do either. I think at one point I had down like psychology, management, marketing at RMIT. I wasn't too sure what that meant either. So I wasn't too sure. But I knew it was going to be something creative. That's the one thing. So.
And you had an inner sense, it sounds like, of it doesn't matter that much. You know, there was something you said earlier, which was I was okay with it because I knew it was just the beginning. It didn't matter.
Yeah, I
a bit for people that may not be able to feel that way.
Yeah, of course. Well, I've realised the ultimate privilege that I've had growing up is my parents would say to me, "Why wouldn't you give it a try?" or "Why wouldn't you try?" So for me, what that led to is I knew that no matter what I did from there on, I'd be able to just find a way to do something. So as long as we were putting in effort, my mum would always say to me, I don't really care what grades you get. I care that you're putting in your effort, and only you know if you're actually putting in the effort. So, you get in your report cards.
You're highly accountable at a young age.
Or something like that. But like she said in such a friendly way, but she was like, like we'd be out doing something. Yeah, that's exactly right. And she just said, like, you ultimately know if it's your actual great effort. We'll see it on a report card, but that's just what a teacher's saying. So, I'd get sometimes a really strong effort. And then the times when I didn't, I knew that I actually wasn't putting in, and I actually really loved the teachers that would call me out on it when they knew I wasn't putting in too. So for me, to go to your question about, so if someone hasn't felt that, it was this sense of you're not ever set in stone for anything. Like you can ultimately go find a way to make something happen, but not everyone has that agency or that belief. So I think for me, it was just I've always had this mantra, just why wouldn't you try? So knowing that things will stuff up, there's been so many stuff up, so many massive failures, but then trying to flip it around and say, okay, so what am I going to take and learn from that?
Yeah, nice. I like it. I should also mention I also have Laura here, my podcast host.
Yes.
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
What sticky question have you got for Dan, Laura?
Well, I wrote down here, I found it really interesting when you described your final exams. You did physics and art on the same day.
Yeah.
Again, when you finished primary teaching, you did maths and art. Like they were your two. So it's really interesting you've got the logical and the creative. And I find that funny because I did science and English. So I feel like we both have that logic and creativity maybe that's why we're a good team.
Yeah.
But I loved that you said you finished your exams and it was liberating and exciting, that feeling of finishing. And I'm wondering why you chose those two words rather than overwhelming and stressful and, the anticipation of the score. Like you literally finished the exams not knowing what you ultimately were going to get from a score, but you were excited already.
Yeah, I still remember we were in this really small, really hot, stuffy room finishing this studio arts exam. And I can remember putting down the pen. I got a pen in my hand now. I put the pen down and just a massive smile broke out because I knew that this was now we were done. You could celebrate. And then I was so excited thinking, I have no idea what are the opportunities that are ahead that are going to come. So I was really excited to just see what was ahead, knowing that I have no idea what actually is ahead of me. So I think that was that. And then I remember as well, I had 3 older siblings. So I watched them all go do very different things. And none of us knew exactly what they were going to do. And they also would change. So I just sort of knew that whatever was ahead probably wasn't going to be the final thing. And also I was really ready to move away from all the structure and the routine of school. Like I remember feeling ready to just go out and actually into the real world. I hate when people say the big bad world. I always think of it as the real world. Like, because school's a really strange place where you get grouped into age. You're all stuck. Like, I remember even having some friends that were like, they were dating someone that's a couple of years older than them, and people found that weird. And now when you think of it, that's not weird at all. But it's weird when you're at school, because school's such a strange sort of place. So I just remember going in that moment like, this is brilliant. Like, I'm done. I was also slightly worried because you go, I have no idea now what this means. Like, I've just had 13 years of my life where I know you have morning, recess, then you have some learning, then you have lunch, then you finish up the day. But I was also excited by that.
You mentioned that because you had 3 older siblings that changed a lot and that you'd witnessed their journey first, do you think that there's a role in what happens for some of us, depending on our placing in a family, that our experience of
I was thinking is Jess.
Is determined sometimes, not entirely, but in parts, by our, not ranking, but our position in the family, I should say. Like, if you're the eldest, it might be that there's more pressure, or there's the unknown. You haven't been able to witness it. Your parents are going through it the first time. The whole family goes through that the first time versus the fourth time.
Yeah.
Do you think that has a role to play?
Yeah, and our family's even more complex because we were a blended family. So I had a half brother and then 2 half sisters. So one from mum's first marriage, one from dad's first marriage, 2 from dad's first marriage, and my eldest sister. So we don't call each other half sisters and half brothers or sisters. But I watched my eldest sister. She did year 12 twice because she did year 12. And then thought she didn't get a good enough score, so she went back and redid it all again. So in my mind, I was like, "Oh, you just do that. Like, that's like
off her own accord."
Yeah. Much to the annoyance of my other sister, who was then in the same year level as her second time around. So, which was interesting to watch. But I don't know, our family, we've just sort of always done things a little bit different. Like, we're okay with trying things out and saying like, well, all right, this is a slightly different path, but that's okay. So she sort of set it all up. You're like, well, if you're not happy, just go try something out. Which, yeah, and I do think that the fourth time around, so it was a strange thing. So though I had probably extra pressure from my dad around performing and doing really well, so I also really rebelled against that too. So it's an interesting one. I was sort of treated slightly differently, but I also had these other people that had done things ahead of me and realised that you can actually just go off and almost like redo if you needed. Like press the reset.
Rebelling against your dad.
So I was expected to do really well, like to score really well.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm purposely using the word rebel too. No, so I got very caught up in the social side, went from getting really great grades to completely bombing out, failing some subjects, probably because I was really annoyed at them. So I was like, I don't know if it was
Spite's such a great motivator.
Oh, absolutely, right. And unsurprising for any teacher, any parent that's listening, like I was I shouldn't say like a really good kid, but I loved school. So I used to be that kid that I couldn't sleep the night before the start of term. Laura's giving me a grimace because I was so excited about going back to school.
Yeah.
Because I loved catching up with everyone. Like you were talking about how I get around the community. Yeah, I loved getting back, but I always had this thing of, I don't know all the stories we're going to be saying at the end of this upcoming term. So I was excited just to see what would happen. And I used to even get like that when I was a teacher. So I used to not be able to sleep the night before term. What a nerd. The night before term because of that reason.
Yeah. You have a lot of people. That's what that's telling me. Like, that's what I see that through the community. What did you call it? Lurking?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't say lurking. You definitely didn't say lurking.
Please don't use that word
from himself, the community lurker.
Well, I think it's the reason why I didn't do so. I liked the idea. So for anyone that's listening, so your kid puts down a preference. They think they know what the thing is. So landscape architecture sounded great, sounded a bit sexy at the time. I was hoping I could be like Jamie Drury and walk around with my top off. And then, I know, which people probably wouldn't have enjoyed. And then you go actually start doing these topics and I hated them. And I was like, oh, this is the reality. So this isn't me. So instead, and suddenly I had all these freedoms. So instead I started going to the pub. I heard my sister talk a lot about teaching, all the great things. When I hated primary school because I was so bored. So we never got, I remember never getting called upon. I was fascinated with everything, loved learning. I remember we'd do all these science units. And I remember, I think, Loz, I've spoken to you about, there was this guy, Andrew, in our class. He was seen as a smart one, so they would only ask him. So every time he put up his hand, he would get, and I remember sitting there going, I'm not getting a chance to like participate. So the reason I ended up going into teaching was I heard my sister talk about just how much fun she had, and she loved like getting these kids to spark, or, you know, most of the time we'd say the aha moment. And I remember going, oh, I wish I could be, if I can be the teacher I wish I had, then that would be great. And my little brother also went into teaching too for the same reason. He had a horrible time at primary school too. And I loved it. So as soon as I walked into my prep teaching round, I think I was 5 weeks into my degree. So you said you were about 8 weeks in.
I think so.
The principal at the time said, do you want to do grade 6 or do you want to do prep? And I said, which one's harder? And he said, well, people normally like get terrified in prep. I was like, great, I'll go in prep. And I remember my first lesson, PE lesson, and I said to a whole bunch of these preppies, all right, everyone, can you all just jump onto this line over here? And like a class of 25 kids literally start jumping around. And I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. But from the moment I was hooked, I just loved it because you could really help kids connect with them and also make learning come to life. So instead of school just being a boring place, it can actually be a place where they can see possibility.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was hooked from the minute I started doing teaching. And I think it goes back to that thing of loving people. I just love helping people, connecting with people, talking like I'm doing right now, rambling.
So you kind of jumped there then. We got from the bombing out, if you like.
Oh, yeah. I did one semester. Yeah.
To that of landscape architecture.
Yeah. One semester and failed 2 of those subjects.
You're Rebecca.
No, I'm good with concepts and the design and thinking through, so I can have the vision for it.
Yeah.
But I definitely know I need to get other people to do it. But I had my program director, he wouldn't sign out. He wouldn't sign me out and say, no, you can leave. He said, you need to come and talk to me about a plan. So I will not sign you off. And I remember going, you bastard, just let me go. I want to bail. And I was working in hospitality on the side, saving up money to just go travel around Europe. And he wouldn't. His name was Michael Howard. I don't know if he's still at RMIT. He was brilliant. I chatted to my family, chatted to my sister, and then I came back, sat down and said, I'm going to go do teaching. I have to do this assessment to transfer across. He's like, perfect, you've got a plan. What date is it? What date is that test on? And I had to tell him the date, and he's like, yep, okay, great. And then he signed me out.
In your life, through those defining years of pathways each way, there are those those people that care that little bit extra, or that are put their foot down to you or whatever, and you're kind of going, you're not my dad or whatever.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple in my own life, and I'm sure everybody can, that there's these random people. And I think as a parent, I used to think about, oh God, I hope my kids get that Michael, get the random people in the life that went in those pivotal moments where they are trying to do something defining. If they decided to write me off, in my opinion, at that point, hopefully someone else jumps in, and influences them in that way, because there really are, I think, those in those years when you're trying to work out who you are, what you like, what you're going to do, where you invest your time, those people shape you, because you do kind of often have a bit more value sometimes on the random person than your own parent, or when you're trying to.
I 100% agree. And having conversations, the reason I've always been and become more and more fascinated by conversations, having a really good quality conversation, is words can change the way someone thinks, which then changes the way they see the world, which then changes what they do. And it can all be through one small, tiny moment that someone can say one thing. Like you think of, there's probably someone that said something to you that's completely changed everything you've done. So we just have slightly more quality conversations, that can have a really big impact on others.
The other thing is the accountability that he made you take. And I see that as something that you really value. And you always, in any sort of situation where you can see the bigger picture and you can see the benefit of moving forward with something, you are always the person that makes everybody take their point of accountability.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's
I'm annoying.
Good leader. No, it's the best leadership quality.
But you do.
You hold people to account in a nice way.
Have you linked that to is it Michael?
Yeah, I think it was Michael Howard. Yeah.
Howard.
Yeah.
Do you look back on that time and think, I'm so glad he held me accountable?
Yeah, I think so. And I've always loved the idea of the warm demander. Every single person that's had a positive impact on me. Yeah, you're pointing at the sheet so my literature teacher. So same thing. She was that lovely mixture of support and challenge.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yeah, Mrs. Thompson. Trish Thompson, absolute legend.
From Pato's episodes.
Yes, yeah. If you've listened to Pato's episode, she was a really big impact. But yeah, I think so because I grew up doing a lot of sports. I played rugby. I did swimming a lot, played water polo, did rowing as well. All the coaches were really great at giving really direct, clear feedback and pushing you, but you knew they also had your back. So I think from a really young age, I've always known I've been okay with getting challenged and getting some feedback. And I don't mean mean feedback. I mean like helpful feedback, that actually informs you. So for me, I'm a bit of a weirdo, I think, in that, because now I'm happy to keep people to account because I know that you can do this and it's the best to help them. So I just think it's great, like when you've got someone that you know is in your corner that just slightly pushes.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh, we all need that.
Yeah.
People need that. I reckon now more than ever.
Yeah.
That strong and kind is something that I try and do a lot, is how you be strong and kind. So
100%.
You know, like you've got to be able to say, well, everyone's very kind sometimes, but not strong enough.
Yeah, well, I talk to people. So I used to say this at the start. So every class that I ever taught, so we used to do like transition day or moving up day, whatever you want to call it. And the class would come in and I'd say, I'm going to be here for you every single day. I'll do whatever it takes to help you. I'm going to get to know every single one of you. But there's an expectation that when you walk through that door, that no matter what's happened, no matter who you thought you were, you get a fresh start.
Mm.
So I said, if you need a moment to go back out because you didn't realise that, go out. You can come back in. But from here on out, we're committing that we're going to do our best. Yeah. And the kids were, and every year, maybe one or two would walk back out, and a couple would be a bit silly. And like one kid rolled in one time, and I was like, it's so good to know that humour's a great strength of yours. And he was like, oh, shit. He's like, this guy. I was like, it's so great because we really need that in our class.
That reminds me of a recent conversation we just had about that opportunity to be someone else, like the opportunity when Laura mentioned her experience around being on exchange and being able to have that reset or that refresh.
Yeah.
I realised I'm going into a new class, and it could happen if just in that something small. You know, this is a localised example in your setting of could be at any age, I suppose, but having that teacher say you get to be somebody, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Differently, like you were showing up differently in an unknown place with nobody you knew around you. So it's easy to do, quite natural. Yeah. But even having a teacher go like, oh, here's an opportunity for you to show up differently and you can reset things. I think that's quite freeing.
Absolutely. I recently had an ex-student reach out. So Giorgio is his name. And he reached out and he said that one of the things he still remembered. So I taught him when he was 11 and 12. So I had him for 2 years. Absolute legend. I recently caught up with him when he's now 24, 25. And that's what he said. He still remembered, like one of the first things where he got a fresh start. So he said, people hadn't given me that. I already had a label. And I remember thinking like, yeah, how amazing. But I also talk to other people about, so support looks different. I annoy the hell out of my kids because I say, I'll help you, I'll support you. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it for you. But then some days I also know they're just like, their tolerance is very low. So I do have to do it for you.
Yeah.
100%. But you get a read on it.
Yeah.
And so I said that to my second born today. We were hanging up a whole bunch of things in the wardrobe. She's like, can you help me? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So the coat hangers are just over there.
Yeah.
She was like, but you're not doing it? I was like, no, because you got this. Like, you know how to do it. And she was like, oh.
Can I take you back to that, I don't want to say speech, but kind of speech that you're having in your classroom? Your expression was actually, it appeared like you were quite emotional.
Yeah, I got emotional when I was doing it.
Really felt like it was really behind it.
Yeah.
The step up day speech.
Yeah, what you just said. I was watching your expression. I was watching the way you were like breathing, talking.
Yeah.
It was like your heart was on your sleeve saying it. And I'm wondering why.
Oh, because I don't think people get real a lot of the time. Like teachers are pretty good at, they go into the content. Like I'm not a secondary. I remember you and I talk a lot about this. I know the power of connection and relationship. In primary settings, you get a bit more time because I've got that year when I was working with that kid that rolled into I had 31 kids, but I get them every day and I get to have them for the whole. So some of them I saw them more than maybe their dads or their mums did. So there's a real power with that. So I know as well, you got to put yourself out there if you want people to also take a risk. So yeah, I think I've done some stupid stuff with like speeches and things where I completely put myself out there and it was very vulnerable. But no, I was really emotional because I was also remembering because the kids, there's a moment when you're setting a new tone and kids suddenly go, oh, this is different. And then they just act different. So yeah. No, but you're right. I got very emotional because I think it's just like, why wouldn't you, right? You need to take a risk if you want people to take a risk.
Do you know what you should never do though as a high school teacher is tell them,
Captain, oh my captain.
If they put in the effort, you'll bend over backwards for them. You should never say that.
Okay.
To a group of teenage boys.
Did I say bend over backwards?
I did.
Oh.
I did. And I absolutely never heard the end of it. So
I can't imagine that. Wow.
What am I wrong?
Look, he's leaning into the microphone. Oh, is this real?
Yeah, no, I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, well, you've really got to really consider the way you phrase things. So
Yeah.
That's probably a really valuable lesson for us. It's probably most teachers are original.
say it. Yeah.
No, do you know, I think the reason why I lost, it's a good question because it's got me thinking is I've always believed in trying to break the script a little. So people have a way that they expect a lesson to start or a meeting to start or like Jess, you and I were on the kinder committee together as well. Like even ways that things run. So whatever people think should happen, do it differently. So that's why I would start things. When we lived in Bidgie, sorry Jess, we're going off script here.
I was going to check.
When I lived in Bidjananga, so we did a similar thing. So I was coaching.
WA.
Yeah, in WA, in this remote Aboriginal community. My wife and I lived and taught there. And we did the same thing. So we wanted to take the boys all loved playing basketball. So we set up to take them drive them into Broome 2 hours every week to play a game. Now, if I was going to give up my time, I wanted to make it really clear to them that I had some expectations, but I did the same sort of thing. I said, I will do whatever it takes to get you there, but this is what I expect. And if you're willing to do that, you tell me what you need and I'm going to make it happen for you. And they'd never had new uniforms or anything like that. So I don't know if you've seen the movie Coach Carter, but I was super inspired by Coach Carter. Great movie. Anyway, so we wrote up like little contracts of what they needed to do, school attendance, the way that they would behave in class, respect. But then I was going to source and get new uniforms. So I had to go off and find all that. But we did it because we set things up differently that they'd never been spoken to in a way that they committed to it. And we got all the way through. These kids were all like 14, 15. We played in under 18s and they all bought in. And we got to the grand final. We lost by 1 point though, but they all bought in from the very beginning. So I think, I don't know, every time I think of when you do these things that sound a bit different or you put yourself out there, it normally works out.
Yeah.
It's daunting though when you do it. The first time I did it, I was like sweating bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And the kids told me that. They're like, you're really sweaty, Mr. Steele.
I think, so let's go to that. So you were in WA for
2 years we were there. We went to Bidgie. So my wife and I both taught for 4 years. In the hardcore suburb of Northbourne. It's not hardcore at all, but it was a really high-performing school, and my wife was in Canberra South, and we moved to Bidgie and lived and taught there in this remote Aboriginal community. I'd never been to WA before, but we wanted an adventure, wanted to be challenged, and it was life. It was similar to like exchange or when you go travelling, completely changed our whole view of things, and it was, incredible.
Yeah. And what would you say is the greatest value that you and your wife or separately got from that experience in terms of, was it living in a community like that or was it more around teaching those kids and the role that you play as a teacher? What would you say that's carried you forward to where you are now?
I think it's the power of community and the power of working in partnership. So any teacher that came up there where we lived and taught who thought it was their job or their right to come in and do something to community or for the community without any sort of actual consultation normally didn't last. So instead of that, we saw it as our job was to get to know and find out about community, build trust, build relationships, and then we would get opportunities to make a difference. So, and you can't rush that. So I learned that community is really, really important, and community is made up of so many moving parts and so many people. And if you turn up in partnership, then you actually can make some pretty cool change that's occurred. Which is the way that I like to do anything. So if I'm going to turn up, I don't want people to feel like I'm doing something to them. No one wants to be done to, right? Bend over backwards, Laura, or get done to. Is that what I say?
Get done.
Sorry, Laura.
Yes.
No. Yeah, right. What an amazing experience. So do you look back on it still to this day as something that was quite a significant?
Yeah, I think it's just you just prove to yourself, the more you accept challenge and the more you put yourself out there, there's always great things that you take and learn from it. It's terrifying. Like I remember I walked in, I was in tears one day after school. Like it was the hardest start. When I first arrived, I felt like a complete graduate. I had to relearn so many things. There were so many assumptions I'd made that I'd had challenged. And I was in this like little library area and I just collapsed on the desk in tears just because I didn't know what to do. And I had to ask for help. And so, but by going through that, you then learn what you can do, what you can get through. And I think every one of those then adds up. So now I know that I can do other things because I've got through all those other aspects. So, I think that's a hard part. Everyone talks about resilience, but to get resilience, you have to go through really tough challenge,
Yes.
and then learn from it and apply things, realize you stuffed up, and then go back and keep going.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about the role of help? So you just said that, and I had to ask for help. And the way that you just said it makes me think, is that hard? Like asking for help when you're a teacher, a young teacher.
Yeah.
Because you sort of mentioned, Laurie, when you were speaking about your career path in teaching, that it can be quite isolating and you're on your own, but you show up to perform almost. Or I imagine, as a non-teacher, I imagine that's what it's like sometimes. Like I have some days where I've got to show up to a meeting and be on from 9 a.m. for many, many hours, but other days I don't have to show up until 2 o'clock to something or whatever. Like I can just get my work done and do it. I imagine teaching, it's like the bell is gone and you've shown up. However you come through the door.
Oh, yeah.
So asking for help.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things, because I think for me, I'd come from I saw myself as a really great teacher. So I had 4 really brilliant years at the school that I was at, and I got really amazing feedback. I used to love getting the cards from all the parents at the end of the year and just reading the messages. If I can ever tell anyone, the present is lovely, but I think this is just me. The card was the thing. So if I felt that a parent
organising this today.
Yeah, no, I've just been telling. So I know if I can write a really personalised message, because that's like a Chadson gift voucher is also really great.
I didn't get one,
but something like you can get a thing, but that goes. Yeah, like I've still got all these cards.
I've got a box of all.
I've got like, and it would because you felt seen. So So I saw myself as a really.
That to me tells me that, and I think it's most teachers. I'm saying if you're a good teacher, but I feel like it's every teacher almost, because like it's such a selfless career path that you give everything to, but that the card means so much more. It's a bit like parenting. Like if your kids give you something.
Yeah.
It's the same when they say words, or they write something to you, or they say something significant. It's so much more valuable. It sounds like it's the same.
Yeah, I think so. I used to talk. So with staff, so previous schools when I was working, so I used to talk to staff about the BET model for feedback. Like I know it sounds ridiculous, but so like the behaviour that someone shows, and then the effect that it had, and then you say thank you. Like, so you don't just do it in a formulaic way like that. But so anytime if you say to someone, so every time that you take a real interest in my kid and you've brought out their best, and now they're suddenly wanting to come to school every day, that's made such a profound difference. They really love learning. Thank you so much. That sounds a lot better than I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Mm.
So if you can say something like that to someone where they actually think, oh, you've seen what I've done.
Specific.
Humans love that, right?
Yeah,
so they want to be seen. So
that doesn't apply to teach.
Yeah.
It applies to your parents. Places.
That's exactly right. So to go back to your point about the asking for help, I think the thing is like I was getting feedback that was telling me I wasn't good. So I'd had 4 years of the end of my first year teaching, I had the principal pull me aside and just say that I just need you to know that you're going to do something pretty amazing because you're a really, really amazing teacher. And I didn't think I was. I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm just having fun every day. But because of that, I then started to believe it led to 3 other years of having all this like great opportunity, making a profound impact on all these kids. We had so much fun, so much laughter. And then I went into a thing where I felt I was incompetent. So to ask for help, I had to admit that I wasn't good. And I'd had 4 years of thinking I was really good at what I did. So to ask for help, I had to go to someone that I thought I could open up to. So, and I had only been in community like 6 weeks. So there was a guy, Pete, we'd had a few laughs, had a few beers together. So I went to him and I said, I'm really struggling. And I remembered purposely choosing to use the word struggling because I didn't want to just say like, oh, this is a bit tricky. So I said, I'm really struggling. He's like, oh, about time. He's like, this happens to everyone. So similar to what you're talking about, like with year 12s and they hit that point, it's like, because it's really tricky. It is. It's really, really hard.
Isn't it ironic that teachers like helping?
Yeah, I know. Well,
you think I can't ask for help. It's like, that's literally what we love to do.
That's it. But we're also not. So, and then I then organised, like, and I was really stressed too. And so then I also spoke to the deputy principal, and again, that idea of keeping to account, to ask for help, I was like, but I need you to come in and actually show me what to do. So I said, it sounds really dumb, but can you just come in because I'm obviously not doing something right. So she had to come in and start to run the classes for me, which I felt like such an idiot. But I was just like, but I also want to learn from you. And then I saw she didn't do things like completely perfect. So it just sort of helped. So yeah, I think.
Like vulnerability. You was going to start.
Oh, yeah. I guess so. But it's hard to sometimes ask for help because you have to say, I don't know.
Yeah. And when you felt like, oh, I'm established in this, or I've done great, or I've had really positive feedback, and then you go into, but you've got to, it's because you put yourself out into a strange, unique setting that was really different and that you didn't necessarily have to do because but you chose not to. So you signed up for that challenge, which was again going to make you vulnerable. Yeah. So at some point, there's probably part of you that knew that that was going to come. So, you know, that there would be vulnerable aspects to it.
Yes. And I think, like, I'm mindful of the people that are listening, because I don't want to just make this really self-indulgent, me just getting to talk about myself. But so I think if they're thinking of how they can then help their kids, so if you've got a kid that you're worried about in school or anything, the best thing you can actually do is, like, don't overshare. Don't say, like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing in my life, but start to show your vulnerability by, you might ask them for their insights on something that you're doing, or ask them for their opinion on something. Start to invite them in, and then they'll, at some point, they'll ask you for help. And it might not be, I need help. They might say, what do you think about this? Or I'm not sure about this. Or they might just ask your opinion on something, but that's them starting to open the door for conversation. But I think adults sometimes forget that we're the adult in the room. So we can model things, we can do those things. If we want kids to open up and be vulnerable, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. It's true.
And they'll do it differently to you too. Yeah.
Because you don't go into workplaces to be vulnerable. You don't go into career to be vulnerable. You go into career to be like, well, I've studied X amount of years, or these are my skill sets. Or, and then being able to go like, I think I might be really bad at this. Or there's aspects of this that I have no idea how to do, and I've been doing this for a couple of years or whatever. That's it does feel.
And that's a common thing with, like, when it goes, like, people say leadership and you know, all that sort of, like, parents are the leaders of their family. Like, that's the thing. You're leading them. You're setting what the values are. You might not know what your values are. You might not explicitly know what they are, but you're modeling them. So I think the more that you can sort of just get clarity around that, and then help your kids be aware of that, or, like, just admit that when you don't know something. I think, you know, in the era of AI now, that's fine, right?
I had a conversation recently where my child asked me a question. I don't know lots, but I said, like, I don't know, but Dad might know, but he might not know either. And she was kind of like, how do you not know? And I was like, oh, there's so many things. I won't know most things, actually. Like, there's some things I don't know, but there's a lot, you know. And learning when they're in those young primary years, that evolution, I feel like it's a memory that most people have of when they realize that their parents didn't have answers.
Jess,
Absolutely.
So I remember being, so I was the learning and teaching leader at this primary school, and I was in a staff meeting. And we had some staff that probably were not, like, super, super helpful people. And they, at the time, started asking all these questions. And I was running the staff meeting. We were trying to set this direction for the way that we were teaching and helping our school. And they were asking all these really pointed questions. And I said, I don't know, but what about between now and next week? We go research and we find out, and then we can discuss it further. And at the end of the staff meeting, I had 10 staff members come up to me either individually or in a small group and say, I didn't know you could say you didn't know.
Yeah.
So you're saying kids don't, there's adults that don't realize at certain settings that you can't say, I'm not too sure, but let's find out together.
Yeah. Yeah, there needs to be more of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what builds connection, I think, for people.
I think so. And also, like, how ridiculous, I'm not an oracle. Like, I'm not Google. I don't know everything.
And I think what you realize too is the more you find out, the more you realize there's more to know. Like,
it's a paradox of learning, isn't it?
Yes.
You think, if I just find this thing out, but actually really find something out, and then you've just got more questions.
Yeah.
Don't you? Can I ask, you had an opportunity to do some leadership roles in Bidgie, and then you really moved into leadership when you came back. I'm interested in what you believe the impact is for you in leadership versus the classroom, because you're a really good classroom teacher. You were able to make great impact with your students and the parents and things like that. Why leadership, and what impact did you feel you could make in those roles?
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact stimulus was, but there was something about, at the time when I got my, like, the first leadership roles, it was maths leadership. And the reason I put my hand up was because I realised there was a whole bunch of staff that were really not confident in teaching maths. So they didn't think they knew how to teach maths. So if you said fractions to a whole bunch of primary and secondary teachers, they'd all be like, oh my God, I don't know how to teach that. So I realized that, so I can be, and I loved teaching any sort of aspect of maths, writing, all of those things. So I realized I could be there teaching this one class and benefit my 30 kids. But if I suddenly started to help people think a bit differently about how they teach, that could then get expanded up to, 100, 200, 300 kids. So after we left Bidgie, I got to test out and I remember I had a mentor that said to me, just enjoy making all these mistakes because you're in a smaller setting, it's lower stakes, and you're early in your career. So it's okay to make mistakes and then take them and learn from it. And then you get really good as you keep going. And so then as I moved into some different leadership roles, I just realized that if I could get teachers really clear on what it was that they were doing, what not to do, help people just see things a bit differently, then more kids would be impacted. So it was really hard though, because I loved being a teacher. Like I'd almost think of it as like performing every day. Like you get to engage them. Like these kids would walk away just having the best day. But then I realized if you get staff feeling that way, and it didn't always happen, not every day that can happen, but then all the kids would benefit. So that was sort of my thing. That's also why I jumped into a bit of teaching at some unis as well, just some tutes, because I realized, if I can get grads starting to think a bit differently before they go into their career, how cool would that be as well? Yeah, leadership, a lot of people, I think, want to take control. So I was also mindful too. My dad and mum were great leaders, and they always were like, well, no, great leaders are about getting more people involved. Like, it's not about you. The more you can get more people involved, the better it is. So I remember you've talked about the way you teach, Loz. You describe yourself as a facilitator. The best classes I've ever taught, the best staff meetings I've ever run, workshops, the best staff I've ever had, there was less of me and more of them. So I think that's sort of what I was interested in.
Again, back to that connection to relationships, interest, curiosity, all the themes I'm hearing. In terms of that leap, was there anything or like pivotal moments, was anything that stands out to you as like this was a defining moment where I went, I'm going to, like you've talked about, and a lot of people do have defining moments in that pathway, whether they're done when they're 18 on the score or whether it's done where they change degrees, so your pathway from your what was it, one semester of landscape architecture. But was there any defining moments in this later part, I suppose, in the career that you had so far where you kind of go like, that was a defining moment?
Yeah, there's probably two. So there's two that first come to mind, which is, so my wife and I often say that when we did our master's degree, so I was really lucky, the Catholic system at the time was sponsoring the study. So they paid a third. I negotiated with my school, they paid the other third, and then I paid a third. So I got quite like a master's degree, and that was in ed leadership. And so it gave me access to all these frameworks and tools and models, and also all these like ridiculously smart people. So we'd all go do intensives during weekends. So I just got to learn from all these incredible people, and it just changed the way that I saw around like leadership and what that actually means. And everyone would often say like, you have to be the leader to be at the front and know everything and do everything. And I quickly realized that's actually not the case. So that was a groundbreaking moment for me, because suddenly I got access to just different ways of thinking to make a real difference for things. And then the other one that I'd say is around the same time that I was finishing up my master's, I had a principal that we'd done quite a bit of work on coaching. And my principal at the time said, well, we know that coaching is one of the highest impactful forms of professional development you can do. So it'd be silly if we didn't do it as a leadership team. But he then said, but I need someone to coach me. So I like a challenge. So I was like, great, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll do it. Sure, I'll coach you. And so I got to
in the teaching stuff.
Yeah, I was a leader at the time. So I was overseeing the learning and teaching for the school, but I hadn't really done much coaching. And then the more I dug into it, it's really like you listen really deeply, you ask the right question at the right time, what you think is the right question at the right time. And your job isn't to know everything. Your job's to help them surface what they know and maybe offer some new perspective, like they discover new perspectives. So he sat down and I got to go through this like coaching cycle over 5 weeks, coaching my principal and hearing him. And he was really vulnerable, really open, really honest. And that completely changed everything for me, because I realized I was hooked from that moment with coaching. I just thought the more you can bring a coach-like approach to everything you do, it changed the way I turned up as a partner, as a husband, just everything. And it improved my teaching, my leadership, everything. So they were two. I had mental models and frameworks that helped me work out how to be a really strategic, thoughtful, authentic leader, I hope. And then also I got these skills to coach and support and develop people.
Yeah, that experience.
Yeah, and that was like 2015. So
yeah, right.
10 years ago.
Question that I like to ask both of you, reflecting on all the amazing people that you have interviewed so far, and no doubt there'll be many, many more. Is there one that stands out to you in terms of the most memorable moment or the most vulnerable sharing, or something that you really took away from a certain interview that you had where it surprised you and energized you?
Yeah, I think we recently had Ethan Didascalou on, and he said a statement about run your own game. So he's someone that went from, he was really devastated with how school finished up for him. And then he's gone on to create like one of the world's leading sort of retail brands, July. But his thing was, he just said, just run your own game. Everything that's come down to is, I think he described it, Loz, as if everyone's on Hoddle Street, he's okay with going off on a side street, exploring, because it's the exploring is the thing that actually helps you work out like who you are, what you stand for, and other opportunities, and just trust that you can run your own game. So I really appreciated that, because I think that's sort of at the heart of what we're trying to do with this podcast. That's why I've been so excited, is there's no one path for anyone. There's no one right way to do it. And that's what all the guests have told us. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, that's what we need to hear more of.
Yeah, and that's what is that the advice you would give to school finishers?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think school's just a place. Education's forever. So school's just a place you're actually out for not very long, and it's just the start. So, and Loz, you said when we spoke to you with your episode, you then have all these things ahead of you that you can pick and choose from, and they don't realize that. So I think the biggest thing is you can run your own game, but it's just the start. And yeah, school's just a place, but education, learning's, that's the thing that actually just continues on forever. But you then get to pick the way that you do it.
Yeah, and so for parents, how do you support your child to learn how to run their own game earlier than later is probably something that I think is a good message to take away of what are some strategies around supporting your child early on to run their own game.
Well, there's like something that's been so helpful for me. I don't know if this is what you're asking, but like, so Steve Biddulph's book, Raising Girls, Raising Boys, he just brings some brilliant thoughts in there about ways to approach it. But one of them is, I can't remember the guy's first name, Benson. It's all about finding sparks. Like if you can just find things that spark and it's something they're enthusiastic for, a talent, like that's the start, because that will be I think it's the most common thing we've heard from guests is most of the time they end up going back to things that they've been interested in, or a spark, or something that they're enthusiastic about. Enthusiasm is great, right?
Yeah. Very enthusiastic, Dan.
Yeah, sorry everyone. Yeah, I'll get off my pedestal.
But no, it's so valuable. It's really valuable to people as parents, but valuable for people that are going through and trying to work out how to be or what they should be thinking about and approaching and stuff. And it's amazing advice.
Thanks, Jess.
I just wanted to say, you wrote down in terms of advice for parents, be aware of the language you use, because what we say around our kids and how we behave is things that they absorb. You also said get out of their way, because kids are so much more capable than we realise. Can you speak to those things? Why were those your big messages you wanted to tell parents?
I think adults are really well-meaning, but they have their way of doing things, and they don't realise that their little humans aren't them. So I think I've seen kids in prep do things that you could get grade 6s to do too. So like getting preps to just run and organise their own classroom. Like I've seen it in action and set it up and done it. So when we give them the opportunity to go practice, and it takes longer, but you give them opportunities to do things and they actually outperform what you actually expect. So I've seen that over and over again. I've seen a grade 6 girl, Catalina, do a passion project, which was the meaning of life. So for her, she did it to annoy me. She was like, I'm going to do my passion project on meaning of life. I was like, great, do it. Got it out of her way and just set up check-ins for it. And then in the end, she presented this project that went on to get written up. But she presented it to the staff because she presented it to all 3 of the grade 5, 6 classes, because she did one and kids said, I heard it was a really good presentation. So they wanted it in their class. And then she came and presented it to the staff because she'd realised what for her meaning of life is and what she was going to go do. Now, if I'd just gone, no, you can't do that because you're purposely trying to annoy me, then that would have never allowed that to happen. So she's gone on to write all these amazing things. She's doing some pretty incredible stuff. But if we get out of their way, they can actually do.
It reminds me of what Lael Stone said in her episode, which was, if you didn't know how it was supposed to be done, how would you do it?
Yeah.
And it sounds very much like if you let the kid, because they don't know how it's supposed to be done. You do, but they don't.
Or how we think it's supposed to be done.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. The system or structure is told us.
Yeah, so it's just like, and people say, stay curious. Like, what does that actually mean? We'll say, like, I'm not too sure, so give it a go. Tell me, what do you think you need to get done? What's that going to look like if you're doing it? The other one I was going to say is, though, that thing around the words. So Maya Angelou has this brilliant quote that she talks about where it's like it's a longer passage, but it's pretty much the words you use eventually get into the walls, they get into your curtains, they get into your sheets, they get into your carpet, they get into the rugs, they get into your couch, and then eventually they get into you. So whatever words you have in your house are going to get into your kids. So if you say things over and over again, that's what they're going to say. That's what they're going to think. Once they think it, that's what they believe. So I know that sounds like you're putting a lot of pressure on, but it also can be really freeing. If you're like, I don't know, let's find out.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you try? So my parents don't remember saying that to me ever. Now I say that's a core mantra that we had when we were growing up. They don't remember saying that.
Yeah.
But I say that all the time now. So I think we've got some power with the words that we want to say to our kids. That's eventually what they're going to be saying.
Yes, but it's not necessarily those significant conversations where you think like, oh, this is a special moment. I've gone out for dinner or having a special chat about this thing. It's more like it's the day-to-day, how we go about our attitude to this, or how we cope with struggle, with hardship, or how we respond to things regularly on a consistent approach over years that you get into. I don't know, I like the examples, like with the rug and the couch and bedroom, and it's like that's how we are. That's not I'm going to go and do this one special thing or have this one significant conversation, which I think parents can hedge their bets on almost.
Yep.
It's more like build it in and model it and behave like it, remind yourself to do it, and then everybody will start to, behave that way or do it.
And if you've got little kids, you'll know certain things are being picked up because when your kids do imagine, so let's say they're, I don't know, 7 or under, if they're doing imaginative play, you might hear them use certain phrases or words that you use. Or if they play mums or dads, I don't know if they... Then the older ones, you'll hear certain phrases they use, they'll say it back to you, especially when you're having an argument. So at some point they'll say something back, or if you're having a really nice discussion, they're probably in the back... Yes, they're probably in the back seat of the car, you're in the front seat, and that's when they're distracted because you're having an activity, so they open up and they'll ask you a question, or they'll say something, and you go, oh, that's what we've said before. And you'll just pick that. That's what's sticking for them.
Yeah.
My mum talks about a moment where we were trying to get ready for something and I said back to her, where are we rushing to now? I remember her saying, she was sitting there going, whoa, we were just rushing through life and not thinking about it because you're so busy and doing this. And I remember her having that moment and saying to her, I remember you saying, where are we rushing to now? And having to stop and go, is that what my child's life is? I'm creating for them. Yes, that's...
Yeah, when your kids call you out on stuff.
Yeah.
It's very significant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we say in our family, like, I actually explicitly say, your job's not to please me. Your job's to work out who you are. And we really welcome disagreeing.
Yeah.
Even though it pisses me off if they disagree sometimes. So I have to manage myself because I've said it's okay to disagree.
Yeah.
But I have to do it.
I think that's it. Yeah. I was raised in a very similar way, which was like, so tell me your views on this and let's disagree about.
Because your dad was a lawyer, right? So I was like, let's interrogate the argument.
I think it made me do law.
100%.
Because it was like, and I would say now, I have looked forward to disagreements with Dad. I was literally I was with Dad a couple of days ago and we were having a disagreement. And I said, like, when neither of us are worked up here, we're just enjoying this disagreement.
I've asked you about...
No, there's not many people you can enjoy disagreement with.
I think...
People don't like it, but I actually...
Yeah.
I really enjoy disagreement and I enjoy it in a workplace, but then I will, in the workplace, go, okay, we need to... Some people are uncomfortable with disagreement, so I need to be able to factor that in, manage it a little bit, put a lid on it, cut it off, but then not feel people that have been hurt. But it can be tricky, but I think it can be very rewarding.
Yeah.
And being raised in a home that says, give it a try, which is one of the themes I took away that I've written down from what you were speaking about early on. Dan was around like, just why wouldn't you try? I think was the comment. And like, that's similar for me as well. And raising kids like that in a home, it's like, make a mistake, go for it, give it a whirl, is where magic can happen, when you're allowing, at least, or facilitating that there's those opportunities.
Yeah. Just one final thing that I thought is like, sometimes when you're saying all this stuff about like, try and do all these things, like, one final thing where I completely bombed. So I tried to step out of school, being a teacher, to join a startup, and I only lasted like 2 months before it all fell apart. And I remember having to call my dad, and I was so overwhelmed, and things just went completely wrong. So I gave it a try, and I was like so overwhelmed. And he's like, "But you gave it a try. It's not working out. Well, let's go catch up, and we'll talk about what you can do instead." Because you can still look up and there's still things ahead. So I just think sometimes I'm really mindful when I'm talking, saying all these things about why wouldn't you give it a try. there is the harsh reality too. Things are going to go wrong, but that's okay as well. Like, and it was so hard going through that, but I think it was so rich. And listening to you say when you're going in those disagreements, I'm imagining too, as you hear all their perspectives, you actually learn stuff too, right? By going through that.
Well, I think it's an experience like you need to have the experience where your parent can come to you and go like, I don't know enough about what you're doing with your career. Tell me more. I'd like to learn from you. Like that's something that I've experienced, Matt, and you feel very valued and, I don't know, verified as a child parent in that relationship for your parent to come and go, oh, what I think you're doing is really interesting, but I in fact know nothing about that. I think is part of that relationship where parents can go make a mistake and learn that they're open. It's that openness to thing you touched on as well, to be able to say like, I want to learn from you as much as you learn from me.
Yeah, it's a partnership approach, which, there's research behind it as well. People are more likely to go take the new learning and actually apply it if you're using a partnership approach. So, there's these doctoral studies around it. There's continued research that's shown it. So if you know that can have an impact, why wouldn't you use it?
Yeah. Well, in the partnership approach of today, we've had
good on you, Jess.
Change seats. I just want to say thanks very much for having me. It's been lovely getting to know you, Grace.
Oh,
and your background.
What a lovely offer though, Jess. Just like, I reckon it'd be a great idea if, you guys got interviewed. And I was like, yes, Jess, put yourself out there. I loved it. So thank you so much.
I wasn't necessarily suggesting it was me, but I did know.
No,
you didn't offer it for us.
Yes. Well, I was jealous.
Yes.
This is my time.
But I think too, like we're genuine. If we put something out there, we're like, if you've got an idea, like share it. We'll actually act on it. That's the other way too. Just slide into the DMs, ask Laura the questions on Insta at More Than a Score Pod. Is that right, Laura?
That's it. You got it right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's your turn for our crisp high five, Dan.
Woo! All right, you ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Oh, now she didn't seem as good.
As good as one. No, ours is really good.
All right, that's fine. Girls, work that out. Let it out.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben.